My name is Ross Charters from Complete Preservation, and you are?
Paul Walker from CK Walker Damp and Timbers.
What's your name?
Paul Walker
Paul
from
Walker.
CK Walker Damp and Timbers.
And today we're going to be talking about bridged damp-proof courses or a bridged DPC. So,
What do you know about it?
let's not get too technical.
It's thrown around a lot now. Bridging. If you look on any kind of Facebook group about damp, bridging.
Bridged DPC.
So what is it?
It's a common problem, I can tell you. No, it's one of those things like people play it down, don't they?
Yes.
Like, oh, it's just a bridge DPC. But the bottom line is, it's the Wonga, how much is it going to cost to fix it?
Yep.
And that is the biggest question. Lots of the clients want, how much have I got to spend on it?
Yeah.
So what do you typically find the bridging mostly by?
Well, I mean, I suppose if we're going to just list them out, there's plasterwork being taken.
What's your normal one you find most?
Well, plasterwork's the most common because
Yeah.
obviously plasterers come in and, maybe someone used to have large skirting boards, now we're going to have some smaller ones, so the plasterer plasters lower down.
Flying ant on my head.
Ends up plastering it to the floor, especially if it's an old damp floor or something like that, proper DPM, that can cause issues. The floor screed, if that's been, added at a later date sometimes, a floor screed can bridge the original DPC. But I'm sure you've come across DPCs which have been bridged from day one.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because it comes back down to the old thing again. You've got to think, this building's 1930, it's got a bridge DPC, it's got the original plaster, and the big question is, what's changed?
Yeah, and that's the perfect question. And that's one that's the bit that no one else seems to ask.
Yeah, you sometimes find people don't think about the absolute basics. Could it be, obviously there's got to be a lot more moisture now for that damp to occur because it's always been a bridge DPC, so you're probably looking at maybe a leak, maybe a drain defect, something's happened, and that might be something to do with a neighbouring property. I've seen some absolute weird stuff over the years. Dare I say, some of the stuff you found very fortunately from like a leak in ponds and stuff like this, like the neighbours will have a little gossip about until you have a little nat with them, you don't know. But cost wise, massive variable, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, of a bridge DPC's got debris in the cavity.
Yeah.
If you've got to clean out a cavity, it's not the easiest of jobs.
And if it's hard mortar. So it comes back down to, again, if you're cleaning a cavity and there's cavity wall insulation in there, so a little tip for you building surveyors out there, the guarantee's void.
Yep.
That then means that whole building needs to be extracted and re-insulated possibly, if there's an old insulation in there. Potentially £5,000 maybe for a 3-bedroom house or something like that, possibly, I'm not too sure. It's all like variable prices from now. So you just think that simple bridge DPC, if you want to relieve that bridging by cleaning the cavity, you've got to repair all the cavity, all the brickwork, cutting it all out and what have you. You'll probably have to sleeve some subfloor vents as well, possibly, because a lot of them aren't sleeved. And then you'll possibly, if you've got a bit of genuine rising damp wicking up there, the biggest thing a lot of them don't want to tell you is the plaster is going to be
salt contaminated.
Oh, did you just say salt contaminated?
I did.
Yeah, so typically you'll find maybe a bit of nitrates and chlorides there. So whilst you might want to cut the plaster off at low level, if the plaster's contaminated, you're always going to get high reading, possibly going to get some higher humidities in the property, and it's going to be more prominent staining.
Yep.
You're going to go to all that work. Why would you not chop the plaster off a couple of 100 mil and repair it? So I absolutely despise and hate it when I see someone tell them, just take the skirting board off and chop it off. It's like, mate, you failed your client. Just take a sample of the plaster and tell them it's got salts in it or not. You can buy these little salt testing kits, they're only cheap. At least then you've given them the evidence and you can say to them, you can do this for £1,000, or while you're there you can spend another day and do it for a couple of grand or whatever you've got to do, and the job's done, bulletproof. But they don't sometimes like to say that, do they? You want to sort of like play it down.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But one of the ones we do quite a lot as well is when you're on about the screed. So typically we do what I call one of the most expensive repairs to replace, and that is where you've got to cut around the floor because the floor is bridging the DPC. Now, if you've got Marley tiles and asbestos bitumen, it's got to be removed to do the cut, because typically you'll find you've got about, say, maybe about 25-30 mil. Now, if you've got a cutting machine, you can't cut that close to the wall on a lot of stuff. And also, if you're cutting, like we're doing one this week, I think the cut's 130 mil. So it's at the maximum of our cutting range on our equipment, and you've got to come out the wall, you know, a couple of inches. And not just that. So when people say, oh, you just put some liquid membrane on the wall. Well, you can't put liquid membrane on there when there's no mortar joints there.
Yeah.
You're going to have to use probably a cementitious product, or maybe some plastic membrane up there. We do a little bit of mixture of everything, and then you're going to have to make some form of modified screed. This is an absolute fortune to fix, but
it's proper repair.
It's a proper repair, and that's what's got to be done. So some customers want that longevity, and some people want to do that type of work or repair. But it's a common problem. You know, you must come across a lot of these bridge DPCs.
Yes, yeah, typically. I mean, more so in properties of certain areas you'll find, but then obviously even older properties, like especially the plaster, that's a really common one. All properties of all ages, but I think the floor screed bridging ones, I see it fairly often in like 1960s.
Yeah.
Properties, for, you know, that kind of era.
What about debris in the cavity? Do you see a lot of that?
Yes. Yeah.
Very common problem, isn't it? Some of it's like wet as well, and it like really like sandy wet.
Yeah. Some of it's amazingly high. Some of it could be a metre, a couple of 1.5 metres. It's
I've seen some crazy stuff over the years, and like it's mad when it comes out to like sand.
Yeah.
Like you literally pull it, and it's just like coming out, and then all the beads and insulations coming out.
Yeah.
It is an expensive repair.
The question is, when you have got a bridge damp-proof course, what do you call it when the moisture then travels up the wall because of that?
Well, I'd call it rise and damp.
That's a very good point. So would I.
I'd call it rise and damp.
But why do people not want to call it rise and damp?
Because they cannot mention the word rise and damp. They can't mention it.
No, because they associate rise and damp with chemical damp-proof courses. They're against that, so therefore they can't mention rise and damp. But all you're describing is a physical act.
Yeah.
The bridge DPC causes rising damp.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
So it's a bit like if you had a leak. Yeah. The water's rising up the wall. There's a drain defect.
Yeah.
It's still rising damp, but we know.
Don't need a damp-proof course.
No, we still got to find the problem.
Yeah.
What the cause is, and like a bridge DPC, like typically you'll find maybe if it's not that bad, probably about 250, 300 mil.
Yeah.
Chopping off sort of thing. But I've had them way over a metre, where it's absolutely sopping when there's leaks and stuff there. But it's still rising up the wall. But they don't want to mention it, do they? Have you got anything else on there? Like what? Again, for you guys, what do you normally see? Do you normally see bridge plaster, bridge screed, debris in the cavity? Dare I say, sometimes if you've got a solid wall,
you can have
high grain level,
yeah,
pointing, bridging over the DPC. I know it's part of BRE Digest 245. I think it's in there. Perhaps not the most common one as such, but it's still technically a bridge DPC, like with high grain levels. That's a common problem, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think the important thing is it's not always just one. Like you say, you can literally get the full lot. You could have a bridge DPC from the floor screed, bridge DPC from the plaster floor, and you could have debris in the cavity. So it's you can't just see one and think that's what it is. You've got to rule out all three on a cavity wall in that kind of scenario.
And that's the difficult thing. Like if you're a building surveyor, if a building surveyor's watching this, or a damp expert, you go into that building and you want to pre-purchase.
Well, you obviously can't. Sometimes you can't do that.
You just don't know, do you? Trying to maybe get a tumble dryer vent out, clicking it off, put the cameras through, going through the subfloor and have a look. But it is hard. But one thing I would say, shout out to Wohler, if you put the Wohler camera through the cavity, you can go through the subfloor vent. So if you've got a vent there, or even some of the solid walls, solid floor buildings had a vent on some of the cavity walls, you can actually go through and you can see if the DPC's there.
Yeah.
So if the DPC's there, you probably say it's not debris, but you could have insulation in the way.
Yep.
Then it could be either plaster or it could be the floor. Now, if it's a suspended timber floor, it's probably going to be the plaster.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to put this video up, and down by me, the DPC in the building, I think, is 6 different heights, like crazy. Like, but I know these buildings like the back of my hand, so I can walk in like I'm a genius. I know it's going to be like this, that, and the other, but that's the thing. 6 different heights throughout the building, and unless you know that structure and those building them estates, you can sometimes struggle, can't you?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a quite an important point, because a lot of surveyors should really stick to their locality.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've come down here today to Wiltshire. I don't know your buildings, but I know my buildings up in
I don't know
Derbyshire.
Derby either.
Derbyshire.
Derbyshire.
But yeah, so it's important. You do kind of start to learn certain ways things were done in
No,
those areas.
it's a really good point, because I think I done a little post on Instagram the other day where a lady that had a bit of bad advice, shall we say, and the surveyor had come from, I don't know where it was miles away, it turns out. But if you are a homeowner and you're looking to get like a RICS, home buyers level 2, level 3 survey, you really want to go and get someone that's local, and you're probably going to find a small practice, and you might pay a bit more than the nationals or whatever. Not knocking the nationals, but you probably get a more, not say a better service, but more unique, that they know those buildings because they've probably done some stuff with them before. So it's probably worth, if you've got to pay a few quid more, or might be less, get someone local. Because I know, like Paul said, I know I could challenge people to come down by me, and they wouldn't know half the stuff I know, and I wouldn't know half the stuff they know in their area, like what you know in your area. I wouldn't have a clue. So have you got any little tips you could say?
I mean, don't be afraid to use an electronic moisture meter for helping with the bridging, because there is some quite, as you know, when you're scanning a wall, if it's just localized bridging, you can get very high readings at the base of the wall with a very sudden cut off. It doesn't go very high, and it can, in a covered wall property, when you're seeing that,
Yeah.
and it's especially in scan mode and rather than just pin, it can be quite a good clue. I know they get a lot of bad press. You've done videos before about them and statements about electronic moisture meters.
I
In the
love them.
right hands,
Yeah, I
they are a
love them.
fantastic tool, and I think for a bridge DPC, I think they can be very good supporting evidence.
Yeah.
It needs to be followed up by an invasive. Obviously, pre-purchase you can't do that, but then 9 times out of 10, you get that profile. Once you do the invasive afterwards, it shows the meter was right.
I agree.
Or
If
it
you can
helps.
get the pin in some timbers, pins in the timbers,
Yeah,
whether you're using scan or pin mode, you can understand where something's not quite right.
Yeah.
And you've got a good idea. It's probably a bridge DPC if the evidence is supporting that, along with the moisture meter profiles. But yeah, it's difficult, and I wouldn't want to be a building surveyor. Sometimes it's not recommending.
but I think I just got to highlight again the point you've made. The big question is what's changed. If it's a built-in bridging defect that we think's been there the whole time, something's changed.
Yeah,
and it's
something's
asking
changed.
those questions. I think that's
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. You've got to, the building surveyor or the damp surveyor has got to emphasise like further investigations on something. And one of the things I find again with the building surveyor stuff, they'd go and do their survey and they'd recommend these stuff, and the hand holding is stopped.
Yeah.
And I've done at the PCA conference last year, I think it was, I talked about this. Basically, the layperson just has a clue. So I think sometimes, if your evidence isn't overwhelmingly obvious, sometimes you need to really sort of like dictate to them what they need to do. And the same with myself, when I've gone there and have a look, and I said, you need to make sure they've done this or done that, or if somebody's done some work, we need to be supporting evidence or because we can't make that decision. And then it's not just a decision, it's the financial decision.
Yeah.
Because that is the big thing, is the old wonga. Like when I used to do the pre-purchase, the first thing is, how much is it? How long is it going to take? And I'm sure you've got that, and you ring them after, and you ain't got a clue how much money it is, because you haven't thought about it, have you? You haven't had a chance.
Yeah.
Thousands. But we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Any questions, drop them in the comments.